What? Are you doing season 2 of that stupid show?
Honey, where are you going?
Where are you going?
Again? Just where are you going?
Where are you going? You're not going to the bar again, are you?
You like hanging out, drinking beer at the bar, talking sports? Come on out and join us weekly. Guys at the Bar Talking Sports, your podcast for just that. Hanging out, drinking some beer, talking sports. It's your boy, Hanger, looking for a beer. Actually, we're all looking for a beer, so if you want to buy the guys a beer, at Guys at the Bar Talking Sports on Venmo. That's it. Easy as drinking a beer. It's your boy Hanger here. Your week 2 college football wrap-up. The weekend was pretty intense with a lot of shakeups in the college football world. There was a couple of pretty good games. I mean, I was thinking the weekend would end up being pretty boring because if you really looked at it, there was only a couple of teams that were in the top 25 that were playing, but there was some upsets and some things that went on. So let's go ahead and go through your top 25 real fast, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up this show. Alabama versus Mercer, 48-14. Alabama wins with Bryce Young, 19 for 27, 227 yards with 3 touchdowns. Defense had 0 sacks. That was something that I thought was really interesting because you would think that that Alabama defense versus Mercer would be sacking that quarterback a couple times. They did have 2 interceptions, so the defense did come out there to play, but those sacks were kind of a weakness. Maybe that'll be in Florida's favor next week when Alabama goes on a road trip over to Gainesville to play the Florida Gators. Number 2, Georgia versus UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham. Georgia dominates that game 56-7, just showing that they do have some sort of offensive talent. JT Daniels was out with an injury. Stetson Bennett throws 10 for 12, 288 yards with 5 touchdowns. Is he going to take that spot from JT Daniels? I think that there might be a fight here brewing. Ohio State versus number 12 Oregon. Ohio State loses. I mean, it was 14-7 at the half with Oregon winning that half. Up to that point, it was a hard-fought game. Oregon got the best of OSU, though, and opened up the third quarter with a 77-yard touchdown run, and they go up and win 28-35. Big upset for Ohio State. Oregon is now in the top 4. Ohio State drops down. Number 4, Oklahoma versus West Carolina. Everyone was worried about Oklahoma's defense. Western Carolina could not put up a point against Oklahoma. Oklahoma wins 76-0. Oklahoma definitely threw some, they were able to throw up some points, but it is Western Carolina. They don't know that there's any high expectations whatsoever, but definitely the spread was not 76 points. So Oklahoma might have tried to make a statement with that game. Number 5, Texas A&M versus Colorado. 10-7, guys. 10-7. Texas A&M barely pulls it off. They drop down to number 7 in the AP Top 25 poll this week. You could almost say that that's an upset in the sense that Colorado just dominated Texas A&M's defense, but Haynes King was out on an injury, and the offense out on an injury early in the game, and the offense just never clicked. They just never could click after that. Defense was able to hold off Colorado, so they did win. Number 6, Clemson versus South Carolina State. Nobody expected that game to be anything but a dominating Clemson team, and they definitely did, 49-3. Number 7, Cincinnati versus Murray State, 42-7. Cincinnati is definitely in the talks of a top 4 team at the end of the season. They definitely do not have a tough schedule and are likely to go undefeated, but they do play Notre Dame, I believe, next week or the week after that. See what happens. Number 8, Notre Dame versus Toledo, barely getting through, and that is a symptom of things to come for Notre Dame, who struggled against Florida State, and now they've struggled against Toledo. They still won, though, 32-29. Iowa State Cyclones, number 9 versus number 10 Iowa Hawkeyes, one of the other big games of the week, and The Hawkeyes come out and win 17-27 against the Iowa State Cyclones. Hawkeyes bump up to number 5 in the AP poll this week. They are definitely a dominant team, and they showed it this week. I do not know that Iowa State is really that solid of a team, considering last week's game as well as this week's game. And everyone had very high expectations for Iowa State this year in the Big 12. I don't know that they're going to be able to beat Oklahoma to win the Big 12 championship. Number 11, Penn State versus Ball State, 44-13. Florida versus University of Florida Gators versus the University of South Florida. Number 13 Gators go in and they fight. There's a fight actually between Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson. It's not a physical fight, but those guys were going back and forth trying to show that they are the person that should start against Alabama next week. Anthony Richardson throws about a 75-yard pass and for a touchdown. One of his two throws of the game. Definitely had about 120 yards through the air with 2 passes. So and then Emory Jones was relatively consistent as well, especially in the first half. But second half, Florida only put up 7 points against South Florida. So we'll see what happens going into next week. But there is a fight between Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson in this biggest game of the week next week, in my opinion, which is the Alabama game. For me, being a Gator fan, as you know. Number 14, USC versus Stanford. 28-42. Stanford upsets USC. And USC, offensively, they were generally okay. But defensively, they struggled, and they allowed Stanford to score 42 points. Number 15, Texas versus Arkansas. Arkansas dominates Texas, who thinks that they're going to be able to excel in the SEC. Maybe they got a reality check this week. Number 15, Texas goes down to Arkansas, 21-40. Number 17, Coastal Carolina versus Kansas. Coastal Carolina is looking excellent against Kansas team who lost over 40 games in a row against a ranked opponent. I think it's the number 2. They've lost more games in a row against ranked opponents than any other team in the nation, and I think there's only one team in the 1960s that had that long of a drought against ranked opponents. Coastal Carolina beats Kansas 49-22. Grayson McCall, a phenom over there in the Myrtle Beach area, passing at above 80% right now, so that's for the season. Number 18, Wisconsin versus Eastern Michigan. Wisconsin pulls it out 34-7, very convincingly. Virginia Tech beats Middle Tennessee 35-14. Number 20, Ole Miss versus Austin Peay 54-17. Ole Miss is moving up in the ranks as well, and they just might be a talent to be reckoned with in the SEC West. We shall see, because their next several games are going to be tough. Number 21, Utah versus BYU. Utah falls to the Cougars over there at Brigham Young University. BYU wins 26-17. Number 22, Miami versus App State. Miami struggles against App State, and I almost expected that as well. App State has a very phenomenal team. I think that Miami might have came into this season a little bit with too high of expectations, and they barely pull it off against App State, 25-23. Number 23, Arizona State beats UNLV 37-10. Number 24, North Carolina versus Georgia State. Not that Georgia State is that talented of a team, but they win 59-17, showing up that they may be a team that can win the ACC. But with last week's loss, that is yet to be proven. And then we have finally number 25, Auburn versus Alabama State. Nobody had any expectations of Alabama State holding it with Auburn, but Auburn is putting up crazy amount of points every single game. Maybe Bo Nix is more than what they say he is, because he had low expectations coming into the season, but they win 62-0. Maybe that Auburn defense is a little bit better than people expected them as well. Tennessee loses to Pitt. That is a notable game of the week. To Pitt, an ACC team loses, or Pitt beats Tennessee. Is Tennessee back? Probably not, but they are under some new coaching as well, so see what happens for the rest of the season. South Carolina Gamecocks struggled big time against East Carolina. Everyone was saying that they were making some major mistakes, but they barely pull it off and win. And then you have Jacksonville State Gamecocks. The Jacksonville State Gamecocks, guys, score 13 points in the fourth quarter to beat Florida State University. Who are the Jacksonville State Gamecocks? I don't think anyone's ever heard of that university or that college before, ever. And then they go in there and they go actually to Tallahassee and beat Florida State. Amazing that this happens, and that is the biggest upset of the week, in my opinion. Florida State's coach needs to be fired if he's losing to a team like Jacksonville State. The Jacksonville State defense actually went onto the field and planted their flag in the middle of the Florida State field in Tallahassee, just showing that these guys came in there to do some damage and win. Imagine the fire under these guys' belts now at Jacksonville State, I imagine. In a school, against a school that recruits in the top 10 every single year. I mean, this is amazing. Now, they do lose a lot of players as well over time to the portal. So, Michigan beats Washington 31-10. Michigan is now in the top 25 in the most recent AP poll. So that is your weekend recap for the college football world, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Keep on coming back. This is Guys at the Bar Talking Sports. We do a weekly show every week as well at the bar, and I think it might interest you if you like to listen to guys talk about football. We actually aren't just guys. We have girls as well that come in and talk football. And you might enjoy it. There is a little bit of background noise that goes on, but it makes it very authentic as well. We might even have people just like roll in and start talking about football with us. It just sort of happens. But we have a great group of guys that come out and talk football. So if you want to listen to that show, go ahead and subscribe to Guys at the Bar Talking Sports on your favorite podcast app. We are on all of them. We also have a Facebook group called Guys at the Bar Talking Sports. All you got to do is ask for the invite, and you can get into that as well. And keep on coming back each week for your weekend recap of the college football season, and every Thursday when we drop the live show over there at MJ's Grill in Columbia, South Carolina. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I will look forward to talking with y'all on Thursday. I know what you're thinking. Man, that was an amazing show. You know what you should do then? You subscribe to the show. By subscribing, you'll be able to hear the show next week and every show that we come out with from here on out. And then if you really like the show, the thing that you can do is you give it a 5-star rating and review. Whatever podcast you listen to, see if you can give it a 5-star rating and review. I know you can do it on Apple iTunes. And then you know what you do? You come on back next week to hear Guys at the Bar Talking Sports.